Oh hi. Caracas, the city in Venezuela and its capital. The city, together with the territory adjoining to it, is allocated to the Federal Capital District of 1900 km. It is service, bank and shopping center of Venezuela. So, the stock exchange of Caracas and PFSA, the largest company of the country, have the headquarters in the city. Caracas is also the cultural capital of Venezuela, with a set of restaurants, theaters, museums and shopping centers. Also, Caracas is considered one of the most important economic and cultural centers of Latin America. Some of the highest skyscrapers in Latin America are located in Caracas. This city is founded by the Spanish conquistadors on July 25, 1567 on the place of the settlement of Indians of the tribe of Caracas. This day the Catholic Church notes Santiago Lansky's memory, therefore the city Santiago de Leon de Caracas, Santiago Lansky's city. And Caracas, where Leon, the name of the city and historic area in Spain, received the name. Over time, from this three-component name only the last part remained. The capital of Venezuela is located in the picturesque mountain valley of the Caribbean Andes, at the height of 910 m above sea level. The city is removed from the coast of the Caribbean Sea, the basin of the Atlantic Ocean, on average on 13-14 km. Climate in Caracas tropical, with almost identical temperature for all year. Average temperature of January is plus 20.2 C, and July of 22.2 C. It is similar to tropical Pasani C climate, where temperature differences are also insignificant. Though not influence of the sea, but mountain arrangement is the reason of such climate in the city. Rainfall in a year 916 drop out. From April to November the rainy season proceeds. From December to March anticyclones, therefore dry weather is established, dominate over the territory of Caracas. The city is in a zone of the increased seismic activity. The strongest earthquakes were noted in Caracas in 1812 and 1900, when the city was exposed to almost final fracture. In the neighborhood of the capital, vegetation of the variable and damp tropical mountain forests prevails. From representatives of fauna on slopes of the Caribbean Andes, the jaguar, a puma, an ocelot, a shrubby dog, tyra, close to martens, an otter, a monkey, sphincavi, a nutria, its cockvosti porcupine, a tapir, bakers live. Caracas was founded by the Spanish conquistador Diego de Losada in day of Saint Yakov, on July 25, 1567, under the name Santiago de Leon de Caracas. The city began to be under construction on the place of the Indian settlement burned by conquerors belonging to the tribe of Caracas. Soon after the basis, the city became the center of the province, generally thanks to climate and effective mountain protection against corsairs and pirates. The first alcalde of the city elected Gonzalo de Osorio, Losada's nephew, and Francisco Infante. Neither in books of municipality, nor in archives data on the first rule of Spaniards in the city didn't remain. In the 16th, 17th centuries he repeatedly was attacked by pirates.
Approximately in 1576, the governor of the province Venezuela Juan de Pimentel, located in Caracas, for the third time having changed location of the administrative capital of the province, which at first was in Corit on the western coast of the country, then since 1545 in Atague.
Since then the city remained the capital of the province Venezuela and, at the end of the 18th century, with the administrative changes made by the Spanish Empire, entered General Captaincy Venezuela. In 1577 Caracas became the residence of the Spanish governor. In 1680 sustained a long-term French siege.
In 1777 Caracas was proclaimed the capital of General Captaincy of Venezuela.
In 1577 Pimentel drew the first city map developed according to Philip II's resolutions, which carefully determined the sizes of streets, squares, quarters and orthogonal. That is, in the form of a grid. Planning of all city, and also specified a way of growth of the city over time. Pimentel's plan of 1578, the only remained card dated before 1760.
On them the town created by a grid of streets 4-on-4 and consisting of 25 quarters around the main square, as it was accepted in the cities of South America founded by the Spanish Empire, is visible.
In 1595 there was the only and unsuccessful attempt of the English invasion.
The English corsair Aeneas pressed and managed to attack at the head of 500 people the city and to burn them.
Approximately since 1600 the St. Francis of Assisi's church, belonging to the monastery of the same name, already dominated over a city landscape, eclipsing the old big church which became subsequently the Cathedral of Caracas. In 1641 the city was completely destroyed by the strongest earthquake in San Bernabé. Reconstruction was slow and labor-consuming. Many of large buildings were restored only in several decades.
In 1678, for protection against the French corsairs who were repeatedly trying to occupy the city, construction of a wall around them began.
Some toponyms of Caracas, for example Luneta's Corner, originate from it, not the complete defense project. And the Redoubt Corner. At the beginning of the 18th century, the new region of the Canary Islanders, La Candelaria, to the east from the city, shelters an essential part of the Canary immigrants who were called white from the coast, and which performed the draft work despised local descendants of conquistadors. On July 24, 1783 in Caracas, in the house at the corner of San Jacinto and Trepos in the downtown, the liberator of Venezuela, Simon Bolivar, was born. Now Bolivar's house is considered historical property of the city and a national monument. He is used as the museum. Many original household items and some personal belongings of the liberator are stored in him. At the beginning of the 19th century in the city there were about 30,000 inhabitants.
In 1799 it was visited by naturalists Alexander von Humboldt and Aim Bonpland, who conducted important researches in the city and in Cordillera de la Costa,
a Pribereshny mountain ridge.
In 1810 in Venezuela the first resolute collisions between patriots and conquerors began.
The Creoles, the Spaniards and Italians who were born in South America, who were a part of city council, organized a revolt, as a result of which the Spanish general captain was stripped of power and the supreme government junta is created. After a revolt in Caracas, the wave of performances of the minding Spanish conquerors extended also to other Spanish colonies.
Originally supreme government junta governed on behalf of the King of Spain Ferdinand VII Bourbon, dethroned by Napoleon in 1808.
Despite it, risen soon were declared by rebels, and Venezuela was exposed to blockade. As to keep visibility of loyalty in relation to the Spanish king there was no more sense. On July 5, 1811 in Caracas the National Congress which declared independence of Venezuela was called. However, in 1812 Spaniards began to restore the domination in Venezuela that was promoted in many respects by the strong earthquake which occurred on the eve of invasion of the Spanish troops. The Catholic clergy which opposed the ideas of independence announced the God's natural disaster which fell upon the country a penalty for non-obedience to legitimate authorities. The Commander-in-Chief of Revolutionary Army of Francisco Miranda, the native of Caracas, tried to conduct negotiations on peaceful resolution of the conflict with Spaniards, but was grabbed and sent to Spain where died in prison. The leadership in the movement for independence was taken by his associate Simon Bolivar who captured Caracas in August 1813. The municipality of Caracas solemnly proclaimed Bolivar the liberator of Venezuela. However, on July 6, 1814 the Spanish troops Simon Bolivar's army was forced to leave the capital. Completely Spanish domination was restored in Venezuela in 1815, however it continued not for long. In 1818 the National Congress which proclaimed Venezuela the Republic was called. Next year she was a part of Great Colombia from which I separated in 1830. From this year Caracas became the capital of the Republic Venezuela. In 1859-1863 Federal War, between adherents of conservatives and liberals which main events took place in Caracas burst. In 1870 the representative of the Liberal Party Antonio Guzman Blanco at whom in the capital considerable transformations were carried out became the president. Construction new was conducted and replanning of old quarters, the measures directed to restriction of influence of Catholic Church were taken. Blanco undertook reforms in an education system, in particular at the University of Caracas which promoted improvement of preparation of technical shots. Besides, in days of his board construction of the railroads which connected the capital with many large cities of the country began, work on improvement of means of communication was carried out. At the President Romulo Betancourt, 1959-1964. Active modernization of the city began. Among other things, the campus in Caracas on the project of the Venezuelan architect Carlos Raúl Villanueva is built. After declaration of Venezuela as the Bolivarian Republic, 1999. At the President Hugo Chavez the projects on alignment of inequality between rich and poor residents of Caracas which provided inhabitants of slums with access to medicine, education and housing were implemented. At the same time, also the level of street violence grew. Caracas, the densely populated city, the sixth part of all population of Venezuela lives in them. The population of Caracas together with the suburbs occupying the territory and outside the federal district, according to official figures, is 3.3 million people. Actually in the capital and suburbs there are 4.5 million inhabitants. Among residents of the capital Spanish Indian métis prevail. About 20% are made by lineal descendants of Spaniards, Italians, Portuguese and representatives of other European nationalities. Besides, the great number of immigrants from the neighboring Colombia lives in Caracas. Negroid race. There are about 10% of the general structure of the population, and Indians no more than 2%. State language Spanish. Indians speak approximately 40 languages of different groups. Most of Venezuelans belong to the Roman Catholic Church. In the country, freedom in the religion choice, therefore missions of different faiths at which churches and special schools open legally work is welcomed. Already during the Spanish colonization, Caracas had the correct network of streets and squares. An architectural appearance of the city. Modern constructions prevail now. On the central square Plaza Bolivar, the cathedral built in 1664-1674 on the place of the church of the first years of colonization, destroyed during an earthquake. 1641 is located. Among other historical buildings, we are most attractive in the architectural relation. A chapel of Saint Rosa, in which independence of Venezuela was declared on July 5, 1811. Church of the Saint Francisco with richly inlaid altar. The National Pantheon, which arches in the 1830th years, decorated pictures of the famous Venezuelan artist Tito Salas, representing scenes from Simon Bolivar's life. At the end of the 19th century, in the center of Caracas, the Miraflores Palace, the official residence of the President of Venezuela, was built. At the beginning of the 20th century, over the Presidential Palace, the building of the headquarters of Military Academy, now known as the Museum of Revolution. In the body of the former President of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, is buried. Was built. In the middle of the 20th century, ceremonial ensembles of public and business buildings were constructed. The Public Center, Simon Bolivar, 1938. The campus. Construction was begun in 1994. Avenida Bolivar with two skyscrapers of Torres del Silencio, Plaza Square, Venezuela, with a skyscraper Edificio Polar. 1952-1954. And also housing estates to Grey Granda, El Paraíso, Grey Belen. In the same time, buildings of the Museum of Fine Arts and an architectural complex of the capital were built. The campus in Caracas, built on the project of the Venezuelan architect Carlos Raúl Villanueva, included by UNESCO in the World Heritage List. Caracas is the house for two of the highest skyscrapers in South America. Towers of Park Central. Towers of Park Central can still brag of the name of the highest twin towers in Latin America, though they are anymore not the highest skyscrapers in the region. Caracas, the highest skyscrapers is Towers of Park Central, the building of Banco Mercantil, Torre Beva, Torre Banco Provincial, and the twin towers of Shopping Center, El Recreo, around Sabintu Granda. The majority of these buildings are located in the downtown. The business center Confinances, 45 floors, 190 m. Wasn't complete. It would be the third highest skyscraper of Caracas. This unfinished skyscraper, better known as Torre David, was occupied by squatters in 2007. In 2011, the number of inhabitants of a skyscraper reached 5,000. The building became a nursery of bandits of all colors. Subsequently, army operation on cleaning of a skyscraper was performed. All squatters were moved to social housing. It is impossible to visit a skyscraper now, it under protection.
In Caracas there are several parks, including East, the Park of Bolivar and Los Caobos of and also zoos Caracas and Alpiner.
About 70% of residents, though there is no clear split into the city and live in slums of Caracas. Safe areas sometimes adjoin without any transitions. For example, one of the richest districts of Caracas Country Club with golf courses lives side by side with Chapelin. Often near rich residential districts arise many, the servants live there. They in general are safe. But there are also huge barrio cities.
About 1 million people live in the largest barrio of Caracas Petr. It is the whole shadow city with the economy.
Is less, for example, 23 de Enero. 110,000 inhabitants. Such even have the historic center, central squares, plaza, there some houses have streets and even the addresses. Almost all on slopes of mountains, from here and the motorcycle as the main vehicle. Here seldom tourists get. Stay is risky there. Caracas is surely included many years into the 5 of the most dangerous cities of the planet with the highest level of murders. The power of the state is limited here, the police appear only for the sake of any loud special operations here. Historically, settlements of the former peasants, campesinos, which came to the cities behind a better life.
Except actually Venezuelans, among inhabitants there are a lot of labor migrants and their descendants from Colombia, Ecuador and other countries which arrived to Venezuela during oil prosperity of the 1970s.
At Hugo Chavez, 1999-2013. Presidency projects on alignment of inequality between rich and poor residents of Caracas, which provided inhabitants with access to medicine, education and housing were implemented. However, at the same time also the level of street violence grew. Sites:
the largest museums of the capital, the Museum of Modern Art, the Museum of Fine Arts and National Art Gallery.
Boulevard Sabin to Granda is the main commercial artery. This the wide, shaded by trees boulevard daily visits more than 500,000 people. 1980th. In 2011 the pedestrian space of Saboni Granda was increased 4 times. Religious constructions: Mosque Ibrahim al-Ibrahim, Tiferet Israel Synagogue, St. Francis of Assisi's Church, a national monument, Constantine and Elena's Church, Orthodox Church. Caracas has the economy based mainly on services sector besides some industrial activity in his central region. It is service, bank and shopping center of Venezuela. In the city have the headquarters stock exchange of Caracas and PFSA, the largest company of the country. Land stage of one of lines of the subway of the city of Caracas. The subway of Caracas functions since 1983. Airports: Caracas, Maiquetía. In Caracas there are a lot of museums. Creole Museum, Museum of Colonial Art, Museum of Modern Art, Museum of Fine Arts, Bolivar's Museum, Bolivar's House Museum, Collection of Birds of Venezuela. A collection of the Museum of Modern Art is presented not only by cloths of the best Venetian artists, but also pictures of such great painters as Miro, Chagall, Lescher and Picasso.
The Gallery of National Art, in which about 400 works of authors of the Spanish period and also the objects of the Indian people found during archaeological excavations belonging to the pre-colonial period are collected, is famous.
In the capital of Venezuela there are the Central University, two private universities, Santa Maria and the Catholic University of Andrés Bello.
8 colleges of music and art, the National Pedagogical University and the Higher Medical School. Musical educational institutions are open.
Academy of Music, Padre of Soho, Academies of Music of Fisher, etc. Also research establishments. Venezuelan Academy of Language, National Academy of History, National Medical Academy, Academy of Political and Social Sciences, Academy of Physical, Mathematical and Natural Sciences, and also international societies, in particular International Institute of Experimental Medicine. The National Library, Library of the Central University, several academic libraries work. In theatrical buildings and the theatrical concert halls, Ateneo, to Teatro Alberto de Paz, Tilingua, Florida, Urdaneta, Carib, Lido, all of Magna, Teatro Nacional, Teatro, Concha Acústica. An open amphitheater. Puppet Theater Acti Troops, Universitario, Compass, Mascaras, Teatro del Duende, Lencia Martinez, Teatro de Bolmilio, etc. In Caracas nearly the richest and beautiful botanical garden in all South America is located. Sport number 1 in Caracas is the Soccer de Sources and specified 222 days. The city has 2 football stadiums. The Olympic Stadium, accommodating 35,000 viewers. And Briquido Iriart, accommodating 25,000 viewers. In the capital, the most titled football club of Venezuela, Caracas, and also some more or less successful clubs acts. In addition, in the city there is a baseball stadium which is in the territory of the National University and accommodating 33,000 viewers. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.